Right, 1685, good luck. Oh, that should be green there. Okay, it's just gone green. How do we want to do this? I'm going to go in early G3, just mix the openings up ever so slightly. That's very bold. Let's develop the other knight then. We could be switching to an E4 game here if he comes forward. He doesn't, so I'll just develop castle. It's kind of switching to an E4 game in a way though with this structure. What on earth is the purpose of that move? I mean, I've got a free move just to kick the knight, but I'm just going to castle. I don't see what that's achieving. I mean, you're not going to sack the knight, I wouldn't think. I can kick the knight and try and go forward and create a threat. You're just going to be retreating. Is there any trick first moving this knight? I don't think so. Just go forward. I can plant the knight. I can push a pawn up. Okay, he's gone to guard this. I can still got knight forward though. Or I can just slash out in the middle. Yeah, I like the idea actually of going d4. Then I've got maybe bishop up. I could just take back. Depends how he plays. So bishop up. Knight up isn't really a threat right now, so I'm just going to capture back. Try and get the bishop up at some point, then pawn up. What's he aiming for? He might be looking to blast down the board, so we might do this. Can we do something like this, I wonder? I'm going to bring the knight forward. Idea is I can jump here with a tempo on the queen if I need a bailout move, but knight across and there is a threat there. Okay, oh, he's kicked it straight away, but I've got this bailout move. So I'm going to take it, hit the queen. Either pawn up forward or maybe queen up with a view to throwing a check in. But pawn up and we can try and open the position up. Let's just see what my opponent does. Coming forward again. What's he trying to achieve? I mean, even just bishop up could be a move. Queen up. I like the broad idea of to come across. I don't really want to trade the queen. Pawn up, not really. If I push, we're going to trade the queen, but it probably is fine. I just don't really want to. Yeah, I'm just wondering about queen up, but knight across might be a move. Check. He can obviously block, but then he's a little bit hampered. I'm just going to bring the queen up one with a view to pushing the pawn, I think. I'm not sure whether I go up one or two. If I go up two, I'm going to try and push the pawn really up the board, but I could just go up potentially one. I could play rook across. Very weird moves he's done. Jumping the knight around a lot, jumping the queen around a lot. You can understand if the pawn flies down the board, it's a potential problem, but I've got bishop up to target them. Even bishop here, and I could just trade this bishop off. That might be very sensible. That actually might be sensible. Yeah, he's played the bishop up, so now a move like this, knight up here, trade the bishop, and then knight across, something like that, and he could be in a spot of bother. Here, knight up here, he might have knight across. Gain a queen, lose a queen, gain a bishop, lose a rook, gain a pawn. It feels like I'm better, but I could just do this the simpler way first. See, where does that queen end up? That's probably the easier way. Or the slightly less risky way. As long as if you're losing your defending bishop when you're fee and kettled, as long as you're getting rid of your opponent's equal bishop, then it's a little bit less risky, but you're vulnerable still to knight, the pawn coming down or the knight getting in at some point. Now, has he just created a half blunder? If we can get the king onto a dark square, there's a knight check potential. I'm going to just take for now. No, I'm looking at just queen up, sticking to the plan, but I can't necessarily jump here. But I can go here. Or I can move the queen with a view to the knight going forward. I'm getting the queen out of the way just so there's the potential for discovery. I can still come here. If he hits my knight, I can move it somewhere. But knight forward has got to be a threat here. I mean, this knight forward might potentially be, but I can imagine it's some sort of discovery could be nasty, but he might be perfectly well defended. He might be fine. So he's shifted out the way to deal with that. So how do we do this then? Again, I can take, but I can't quite take here. I do have h3 though, looks interesting. And he can't guard this pawn. I'm going to play h3, maybe with a view to a sack and trying to crash through, but he might have a simple defensive move. So I probably won't do that. Unless I can get a really good square for the knight, like here. It depends where his queen obviously ends up. But it's very risky pushing your kingside pawns like this. So he has gone back, but I still don't have knight here. But can I just grab a pawn even though I'm walking into a pin? That's probably a mistake. But if I just move the knight, he's got the simple bishop up. The queen up. What about knight here then? Queen takes, take. Then he's got bishop up anywhere. This or this might be a good move, but... Or here, bishop up, check, knight up. And maybe knight across, that still looks strong. I'm going to do that. I think queen across with a view to knight over. Oh, has he really done that? Okay, that's given me knight over anyway, but he's just cleanly hung a rook. Oh, he's hung a rook with a knight with a check. I'm just going to have to take. I can't turn that down. There's a risk to my king, but I can't turn down the rook and the knight. And the king can't easily escape, so he's gone there. So knight up must be strong now with a view to a check. So knight up, I just take. We're getting out of dodge. We've got this. There is a risk to my pawn, but I don't see him having another piece with the queen to threaten the king. So we're threatening this, we're threatening this, we're threatening this. Lots of threats here. Actually, yeah, the knight can't move, can it? The knight's pinned right now. The king can't really run away. It's probably resignable now, but there's nothing wrong with my opponent playing on. You never know, I might just blunder everything. So he has indeed taken, and he does attack the knight, but I think I go here, collect, up. Then what do I do? If I take here, I'm guarding. Let's just play the check to start with. So let's collect the knight, then collect a pawn. I assume this one, it does give him rook across, so if I collect this one, there's still no check here or here. Actually, if I go here, I'm threatening a check to win the queen. So that creates a check with a discovery on the queen, so it's a threat, as well as guarding my knight. And he's got no extra piece there to attack right now. If the rook got across, if everything else disappeared, there's obviously a threat to my king, but right now, feels fine. I think he's got to move his queen or his king. Yeah, queen's gone back. So now I think I can just simply take here. I could go with the knight first, but I think the bishop to try and force the bishop off is more logical to me. Otherwise, you could get a scenario with a bishop here, allowing the rook across. Queen takes pawn, it just activates my rook, so that would be good. And of course, queen takes pawn, you're wandering off from the defense of your own pawn. Right, the rook's come across, so I think I should just take the bishop there. Yeah, let's not mess about. Just get the bishop off the board. Queen goes there. So we've got a check. We can activate a rook. Like I say, I'm not bothered about this pawn. I can just activate my rooks. Well, that's the pawn. I'll have to ignore that. Let's get across. Maybe check might have been a bit neater. I don't know, but rook across. So if you take here, I'm just going to activate my rook, although the knight is a bit weak, but now I can hopefully get forward. So let's bring the queen into play. If I can get a check and get the queen off, then that's obviously cleanly winning as well. And we can't. So no messing about, get the queen off. Now we're up a rook and a knight. So just make sure the knights are safe. There's essentially no risk whatsoever here. There shouldn't be. Any tactic, I don't see it. So just drop back. This one across. Centralize, blast forward. Okay, get the cursor off the board so there's no accidental slips. Okay, knight comes over. So I think knight back makes sense to me. Yeah, knight forward. No, I'm just going to bring the knight back. Just say minimize the risk. I've got king up, rook across if I need it. I can try and chuck all the pawns forward, so we could go forward there. We can go forward here. Here. I could let my opponent take and just come across, I guess. Yeah, you can't take there. I'm threatening just to push on with a check. If you take here, I've got rook across and I'm coming around the back. So I'm going to check and then come across. Oh, actually, I missed that move, to be fair. I missed that I've driven the king back to simply defend there, but I can maybe push here. There's a check threat. Actually, there's a knight here. I can allow this by going here and threatening this in return, and all the pieces come off. So here, if you see this, knight check takes, knight check, and I take the rook. I'm obviously allowing this in order to do the same here. Yeah, the king's moved, so he's been aware of it. So I'm just going to move this rook across. If knight in, I can go here. That's kind of covered. And then I can just threaten to push the pawn up. I've just got to pay attention to the clock now. So kicks my knight. So let's come here, create a threat. This one is a check threat to get the knight off the board. So he has gone there. Okay, I've allowed this now. It's all good, it's all winning though. Rook across, we have a check. Let's blast forward. I've just got to pay attention to the clock. It's the only real risk here. Or it should be anyway, barring a real bad blunder. But I say there's nothing wrong with my opponent playing on, just in case. You never know. Okay. I think I have to check here and drop back. Now he's got rook takes and he can win the rook potentially, but I've got a knight check here. If he takes, it would actually be a blunder. Take the pawn and then take back. Because he could take the knight to undermine the defense of the rook. But I can actually defend it and then collect next move. So I'll pre-move that. He's held on pretty well from a difficult position there, but been fairly comfortable, obviously because I got an advantage early on. But amateur games are never over till they're actually over. Just one silly sloppy blunder. I can start running the pawn now. We can collect here, depends what he does, of course. Just push. Okay, push again. Just drop the rook back and get a new queen. Actually, maybe going here was a bit neater, because the king can now march too. Here the knight guards. But I am threatening a pawn though. Okay, I'm going to get a queen. I could actually allow him to queen there, couldn't I? And go here. Queen, check, and mate. It's a bit unnecessary though. I'm sure that is checkmate, but let's... yeah, let's go the ultra cautious way. Okay, now we're going to go from either end. So just all about avoiding sloppy stalemates. Make sure the king's got a square and it's checkmate next move. And there we finally get it.